Well, good afternoon. We're here at the ACS Reimagination Thought Leaders Conference in Melbourne. 2,500 delegates from all over Australia and even the globe converging here today to discuss all things tech and data in the ever-changing world that we are in. But one of the big topics is managing data. And that's why I want to welcome this man right alongside me, Dr. Ian Opperman. Good afternoon to you. Your title reads CEO of New South Wales Data Analytics Centre and New South Wales Chief Data Scientist. Like I said, an impressive title too.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here.
You've been on board this conference from the beginning. How have you seen it grow over the course of the last few years?
Over the last 5 years, it really has grown from something which is modest, a New South Wales focused activity, to genuinely being an Australian activity. 2,500 people, as you said, and 1,400 students at last count. That's impressive.
That really is. It's exciting to see the young faces coming up through, isn't it?
Absolutely. I was actually in the student queue this morning and thought, oh my goodness, I've hit peak hour traffic jam.
That's a good thing. All right, well, let's talk about some of that data. And what is the exciting data that we're talking about here today?
Well, today it's all things data, ranging from the governance to use, but also what I particularly care about is the privacy-preserving data sharing. And today I'm pleased to say that we are releasing the latest in the series of white papers on how to do it. So how to preserve privacy whilst sharing data linked to de-identified data sets. Exciting.
Very exciting stuff. So talk us through what you've explained in there at the conference today.
The real challenge is that a lot of smart relies on sharing and use of linked de-identified data sets. Smart lights, smart city, smart factory, even smart government. And there's a real problem that when you start to link data sets together, there's a concern that you cross a line and go from personal data or personal information to personally identifiable. And so by being able to develop thresholds and measures of that personal information, what we're looking to do is say, this is when we're on this side of privacy legislation or that side of privacy legislation. And it turns out to be a really tricky and subtle problem. So we've looked at building a personal information measure, a personal information factor, and also looked at sensitivities related to data sharing and use. This is the next step. Unfortunately not yet done, but this is the next step.
When it comes to powering smart cities, what do you mean by that?
So smart cities are really cities which enable you to talk about big concepts like livability and accessibility and sustainability. And being able to describe what we're trying to achieve in terms of those outcomes is really where most of us feel comfortable talking about the principles. What we've been trying to do, working with standards and working with government and working with the ACS and others, is to try and build those frameworks into outcomes, describe those outcomes in terms of data-driven indicators, and then build the data assets to help us understand what levers we need to pull to drive the indicators to achieve the outcomes. Now that sounds pretty straightforward, but it turns out to be extraordinarily complicated.
In terms of personal data, you touched on it before, a smart city means that we're going to be giving up a whole lot more personal data. How do we know that we're safe and in the right hands?
So that really is the challenge. And really what we're seeing in the world at the moment, lots of people using data, and you have those organisations who just use it and just keep running. And we have those that really are so concerned that they really just lock it down. So what we've been trying to do is just build frameworks to say, if you've got different levels of personal information, you can build ways of governance frameworks for low personal information, which we might use as open data, or high personal information, still acknowledging which side of the privacy legislation we're on, whether we're reasonably likely to identify or not. We then acknowledge the fact that data use and data sharing comes with a lot of sensitivities. So if we can then work out where we sit in that personal information factor versus the inherent sensitivity or not, we can build different governance frameworks for high personal low sensitivity, low personal low sensitivity, low personal high sensitivity, or what the data sets we typically think we've got high sensitivity, high personal information. And just thinking about the problem that way helps to make this a little bit more tractable.
And just quickly, we also have the awards tonight. I believe you've been involved. It's a lovely chance to celebrate some of the incredible minds out there.
Every year I get to see these awards. Every year I get excited about the future of Australia.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ian Opperman. We appreciate your time. And of course, we'll have all things here from the ACS Reimagination Thought Leaders Conference live from Melbourne right here on Sky News.